Hey everyone, this is DWS Darius, and today I want to give you the final fish room tour of the year. I have a wide variety of fish that originate from all over the world, spread throughout 11 fish tanks throughout my house, but most of them are here in my basement fish room. First, I have a pair of 125-gallon tanks stacked on this DIY stand. On top, I usually refer to this tank as my grow out tank, because most of the fish in this tank I bought to go into different aquariums, but they were too small, so I let them live here until they get big enough for their intended homes. Fish like my banded leperinus are destined for my 350-gallon aquarium, but it'll probably take one more year before they're big enough to not be eaten in that tank. I have a young Vieja Spillum that I believe is a female. I'll move her pretty soon along with my Cribboharris rostratus. That will leave my male Vieja Melanura, who will be the focal fish of this tank, along with a female Carpentis, a red jewel cichlid, a blue flash cichlid, and some black chin tilapia. I also have some giant Danio, some Buenos Aires tetra, and a panther crab in this tank. The stocking of this tank will revolve around my Melanura cichlid, so as he matures, if he dislikes any fish, I'll remove him, and whoever he's tolerable of will remain. Below is home to Endonymus, my Jaguar/Dovai hybrid, who is the most opinionated fish I've ever encountered. He's very territorial, so whenever I come too close to his tank, he threatens me by flaring his gills. He tries to intimidate me by shaking his body, which is how fish usually taunt other fish. So that means he sees me as another fish. And not just that, he sees me as a fish that he can easily dominate. Across the fish room, I have my third 125-gallon aquarium. This tank is home to my male Vieja bifasciata, who takes the crown as the most beautiful fish in my collection. I also have a female Zonata cichlid in here. The plan was to let these two fish pair together. Even though they're not the same species, they are closely related, so it wouldn't be unnatural for these two fish to spawn. The goal wasn't to produce offspring, but rather just to provide a companion for my male bifasciatus. A few months ago, the female started being extra bossy towards the male, and he didn't like that, so he's been being extra aggressive towards her, and that's the reason why she hides a lot. I also have a female Dovai in this tank. She was in my 350-gallon aquarium, but she had conflict with another fish, so I moved her down here. She's actually doing great in this tank. She coexists well with the bifasciatus, but eventually I will rehome her. I'll also remove the female Zonatus. I will add more fish to this tank, but I'm split between looking for another match for my male or just adding dither fish. As for a match, I don't plan on buying any more cichlids, so I will try to work with the females that I already have, like my female Cynospilum or my female Fenestratus. It's either that or just to get some smaller cichlids as dither fish to coexist with him. Let me know what you think will look best. Next to him, I have my 29-gallon quarantine tank that I'm currently using as another grow-out aquarium. I have an assortment of platies that I'm using as dither fish. And I have 4 silver dollars that I'm growing out for my 350. They're all growing at a nice pace, but it'll likely be a few months before they are big enough to be moved. I have this 20-gallon goldfish tank. These fish are overwintering in this tank, but their main home is in my backyard pond, which is currently in hibernation mode because of the cold temperatures. The Blackmore has adjusted very well to tank life. The smaller Aranda started off with a white and black panda coloration, but is now developing orange colors. I prefer the panda colors, but it'll be interesting to see the transformation process. I added the tower to this tank, and they both seem to really enjoy it. Next we have my second largest tank, my 350 gallon tank. My black belt cichlid is the tank boss, followed by my second male Vieja bifasciatus. This is the brother of the fish below. He's not as colorful because he isn't fully dominant in this tank, but he's a little bigger at about 9 inches. Next in rank I have a female pink Fenestratus cichlid, and then a female Dovite hybrid that I want to rehome soon. I have a female Feste cichlid who's next in rank, and I'm shocked at how fast she climbed the ranks in the hierarchy. She's a very beautiful fish, but the species altogether is one of the most aggressive species I've ever worked with. Next I have my Starry Night cichlid, followed by another female Fenestratus. And at the bottom of the hierarchy I have another female Feste cichlid. I've been searching for female Feste cichlids for the longest, so as a reward to have 2, I will be keeping both, but soon I want to separate them because the larger one is being super aggressive towards the smaller. I have 3 Y-bar silver dollars that are growing nicely, along with a big eye catfish, and also a Raphael catfish who is always hiding. And I recently caught my Polypterus inlateri bichir out of my 880 gallon tank and put him in here so that we could observe him better. Lately the fish have been skittish and timid. I'm hoping the addition of my silver dollars and the leporinas will eliminate that. This is my biggest tank, my DIY 880 gallon aquarium. The tank holds over 900 gallons of water, but I figure with all the rocks and driftwood displacing water, we're probably left with somewhere around 880 gallons. This tank features a canopy of plants above the tank that help absorb nitrates that the fish produce. Below we have my biggest fish, including my Cichlid temensis peacock bass, who's around the 2-foot mark. We have 2 Cichlid ocellaris peacock bass, my older female that's about 18 inches, and a young male that's about 14 inches. My Cichlid azul is about 18 inches, and a Cichlid orinoco that is about 16 inches. I have a Crinan Cichlid lenticulata pike that's about 13 inches, and a Mesoharis geoffrius which is around the same size. Lastly, I have 2 4-line Pictus catfish that are both about 12 inches long. Now the silver dollars that you saw inside of my 350 gallon tank, eventually once they're big enough I want to add them to this aquarium, along with my Flactoperchilodus, which you'll see in the next tank. At the moment there is some conflict between my male ocellaris and my male orinoco. It's not serious enough to cause major stress, however being at this size they do create a mess, they splash a lot of water, and they do destruction to the planters that I have above, so I'm considering my options to mitigate the problem. If I want peace, I'll likely have to remove one of the males, which would suck, but if I can find someone with a similar sized tank or bigger, I won't feel too bad. Besides that, let me know what you think I could do to make this tank perfect. Upstairs we have my third biggest tank, my 210 gallon tank. This is my most densely populated tank with close to 50 fish, but most of the fish in this tank don't get too big. In the coming year I will be removing some fish, including my invasive Mbuna cichlids. Every time I remove them from the tank, a younger generation emerges from the shadows. They are surprisingly well behaved in this tank, but if I don't get them out, they will definitely become the majority of this tank that was supposed to be Asian themed. I'm also going to be removing my African tiger scat, who is a very smart and beautiful fish, but he is also a huge bully. I want to add him to my 350-gallon tank. The only thing that's preventing me now is the fact that he has a tiny mouth and he wouldn't be able to eat the food that I feed to that tank, but I might just readjust the tank's diet just to get him out of here. After that, we'll be left with one of the most common tanks imaginable. With the steady movement of the barbs and bala sharks to the colors of the loaches and the rainbow fish, this tank soon will be a perfect screensaver. Next we have my 40-gallon planted reef tank. I started this tank in April and I'm currently working on the evolution video, so by April of 2025 expect a proper introduction to this tank. But for now, this tank was designed for the lowest maintenance possible. I have macroalgae growing to lower the nitrates that the fish produce, making it so that I don't have to do many water changes. I currently do a water change every 5 weeks or so, but I want to make it so that I could go 5 months or longer without needing to do water changes. Not because saltwater water changes are difficult, but rather because it would be a huge accomplishment to create a self-sustaining reef. The tank currently has 7 fish, including a pair of clownfish, a diamond watchman goby, a candy hogfish, a tail spot blenny, a springer damselfish, and a possum wrasse. I have a skunk cleaner shrimp, and I'll say that this is the best pet invert that you can have in the entire hobby. Overall, I really enjoy this tank. Lastly, I have a pair of 20-gallon tanks. These are my coldest aquariums. They don't have heaters, and while the temperature in my home is set to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, these tanks are next to windows, so with the draft, these tanks sit anywhere between 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. The fish in these tanks don't mind though, because they are subtropical. They originate from areas in the world that experience similar temperature changes. This winter chill is actually beneficial for these fish because it makes them aware of the change in seasons, which triggers mating season. Which explains why I have an army of cherry barbs. I started with just 4, and now I have over 2 dozens. These tanks also don't have any filters or lights. I rely on natural light from the windows, and I have tons of plants that filter the water and convert CO2 that the fish produce into oxygen. I don't really aquascape these tanks, so it's really survival of the fittest for the plants. The tank to the right features a female Paradise gourami that was born in this tank, along with some platies, but this tank has a terrible glare, so it's hard for me to film it. As for the future of these 2 tanks, I may remove the platies and add a bridge between the tanks and let cherry barbs live in both tanks. So that's been a look at all my aquariums as of today. It's been a pleasure to raise these fish and to be able to share them with you all. I've learned so much from creating these ecosystems, not just about fish, but also about myself and the world around me. I hope you can find as much motivation and inspiration from these fish as I have found. Anyways, thanks for watching.